Everybody, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I'm glad that everybody's back again. We're back for another day. Uh, and I'm just excited again, just about being able to be back and share with you guys. Because I tell you, the last week or so, it's been very busy for me. I've traveled probably over 5,000 miles, so it's been pretty busy with me as far as with traveling. I was able to rest up today, so I'm excited about that. Also excited about just, things I was able to do while I was traveling over the last few weeks. So shout out to my baby girl who celebrated her birthday this past week, Nia. She's the Big 10, Big 1-0. And shout out to my son, Robert. I was able to surprise him with a car. Drove down and surprised him with that. So I'm excited about him. How you doing, Miss Paige Banks? Good to see you. Thank you so much for your continued support. It means a lot. It means a lot. So, again, man, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sharing this like I usually share. And, make sure you share it. Let people know that what we're doing, we're in the building. I'm going to share it just a few more times. We're going to jump right into it. Jump right into this thing. Because I would tell you, man, this thing is a good this topic tonight, I think, is going to be one that's going to be very liberating and freeing for a lot of people. And I'm really talking about a lot of things from the perspective of lessons learned myself. Because there's a lot of lessons learned that I had to learn about myself, about things. So that's just me sharing. And that's what it's really about. It's really about sharing experiences. Nobody knows everything. And not even trying to know everything, but sharing our experiences. And you don't realize just how much what your experience can do to help somebody that may be going through something the same what you're going through. So I just wanted to bring that up. Share this. I got 2 more shares, and then we'll jump right into it. Again, man, let me know where you're tuning in from. Make sure you comment. It's an interactive platform, and really, really love the comments because they make it for what it is. They make it what it is, for real. Again, I'm excited. Was able to rest up today, so that's a good thing, man, because I've been really been on the road. And last share, and we're gonna jump right into this thing. Huh? Well, here we go. I think we're having some issues like we did last week, but you know what? It is what it is. But either way, hey, make sure. I know it said it's unavailable. Yeah, it did that last week. So make sure. I don't know what's going on. I get it fixed. But all right, Ms. Paige Banks tuning in from Greensboro. We're going to go ahead on and get started at episode 76. And we're going to talk about stop trying to take responsibility for other people's actions and behavior. Now, I think that's very, very key because a lot of times we find ourselves feeling responsible for other people. But the reality is, this is the reality. The reality is this. The reality is, at the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself. And I'm not saying this from a selfish perspective. I'm saying this from a reality perspective, because a lot of times we take too much on ourselves, and we find ourselves taking too much on ourselves. We find ourselves taking too much on ourselves, feeling like that is our responsibility, and we take on that responsibility for other people's behavior. And that's easily being seen with how we do with our kids, how we do with our family members, our loved ones, those that we're close to. We start taking on the responsibility for their actions and behaviors. And the reality is, they are responsible for their own actions and behaviors. And it's a different thing, and we can't continue to keep doing that, because what we end up doing is we create this false narrative, or we create this false reality for those people, as if they don't have accountability for their actions. And they grow up in the aspect of, they grow up doing things, and they always have the mindset that it's somebody else. And I see it all the time, especially when you're talking about teachers and everything with their kids. It's always a teacher. It's always a minister. It's always somebody else. But we got to stop taking responsibility for the actions of others, and especially our kids. Why am I saying that, especially our kids? Because life does not care about how you feel about your child. It doesn't at all. Life does not care about how you feel about your child. And when we put our children up in these pedestals as if they can't do no wrong, we're really setting them up for failure in life. We're setting other people up for failure in life. Our siblings, our loved ones, our spouses, when we are taking on the responsibility for other people's actions and behavior. And a lot of times with that, the biggest thing that comes out of that is you're wearing yourself out, you're wearing yourself down, and you find yourself at a place where you're always operating at a deficit while they just living their best life. They living their best life, and you sitting up there like, you sitting up there barely getting by. They living their best life because you are assuming responsibility for their actions and behavior. You know, the sad reality is this, like I said before, yes, I know that as a parent, I am responsible for my child up to a certain age. And I get that. I'm not negating that. I'm not negating that at all. But what I am saying is, even though I may be responsible for them, that doesn't mean I'm taking accountability for their actions and behavior. I'm responsible for it. I have to give an account for them, but I'm not taking responsibility for their actions and behavior. They will always be held to their own decisions. And we see the detriment of that when especially in our community, especially how we just look at behavior issues. Let's just look at how we operate. And I'm gonna use this as an example for teachers. And I got a heart for teachers because I grew up around educators. My grandfather, grandmother were both educators. I got two uncles that teach. My mom was a retired educator. My dad was a retired educator. My sister worked in education. I mean, my niece, family members, people all around me are working in education. And one of the things that I see is what they deal with. They deal with a lot of people taking responsibilities for other people's actions and behaviors. And what that does is it leads to destruction in a lot of their kids' life. It does. Because their mindset is, it's not my fault. It's always somebody else's fault. And that's setting people up for failure. Because guess what? Nobody cares about your child. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm saying that to be as factual as possible. You know, nobody cares about your child. Nobody cares about your child. And the reason why I say that nobody cares about your child, I'm not saying it to be negative. I'm saying it in the perspective of the world don't see your child the same way you do. And a lot of times we come in with that mindset as if everybody's supposed to see our kids the way that we do. And now we don't teach them life skills. We don't teach them the realities of life. We don't teach our spouses. We don't teach our siblings by enabling them to develop bad behavior. We do that. And then we wondering why, later on, we wonder why they struggling and they dysfunctional when they get older. Because we did that. We set the conditions for that. We did that. It ain't nobody else. It is us. It is us for our coddling and not holding them responsible for their behavior. And the responsibility, Ms. Paige Banks said that. She said, yes, I am responsible for my child. However, he's responsible for his actions. I'm there, but I got to let you know that you're wrong. I love that. Thank you. I love that so much because that's a reality. And not only just with our children, also with our spouses, also with our siblings, also with anybody else that we feel like we got to take on the responsibility of it. And we wear ourselves out. We wear ourselves out. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about is a lot of times this is what happens, right? We take on responsibilities for other people. And especially when we're in intimate relationships, we want to help those that we say that we love or that we're connected to. And what we start doing is we start taking on the responsibility for their healing or their traumatic experience as a child or something. And they put it on, we allow them to put it on us. And then we start to get blamed for it. But it's their responsibility to deal with it. We can help, but I'm not responsible for what happened to you. I'm not responsible for that traumatic thing that happened to you. I can help you on your path to healing, but I'm not responsible. So don't try to make me responsible. And a lot of times what happens is we do it out of the good intentions of our hearts. But what ends up happening is because we're there, we get taken for granted and we allow people to put it on us because we're always there and consistent. Free yourself from that. Let it be known that you're there to help, but that's not your responsibility. That's the best thing you can do. That's the best thing you can do. And I'm serious on that. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because if you look back over your life and all of the things that we've gone through and all of the relationships and stuff that we've had to deal with, there's a lot that we take on that is not even our responsibility. And if you really look at how much time and energy is wasted on things that are not our responsibility, not our responsibility. We stressed out. We neglecting things that is our responsibility, trying to be there for or take responsibility for other people's actions. No. Ms. Paige Banks said, when we make excuses for others' actions, they don't learn that it's consequences for the things we do that's wrong. That is so true. And that's in everything. And I know it's easy to talk it from the perspective of children because that's easy to relatable. But when you start talking about with spouses, you start talking about with loved ones, with siblings. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that people go through. A lot of things people go through with their family members because their family members, some may have happened to them. And with some being traumatic happened to them, what ends up happening is they become emotionally dependent on somebody else being strong for them. And they get in a place to where they stay where they at. They're not really even trying to address it. They're trying to avoid it while benefiting from you being there and you pulling that load for them. You're lifting that load for them. And it becomes, they throw that load or that weight on you and they choose not to work towards their healing. And you're sat there with the emotional bill. You're sat there with the emotional pain. You sit there and you're the one being bogged down. You're the one being overwhelmed. Your health started to change. Your mental stability started to wear down because they're putting it on you and you're willingly accepting it. But you got to take charge of that. You have to start taking charge of that because guess what? You own it. You own it. And we can't continue to put that on other people. I'm not saying not to be there for people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying not to be encouraging. I'm not saying not to be a shoulder to cry on. I'm not saying not to be there and be supportive. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is don't take that responsibility because that responsibility is really the other person. And if we looked at it that way, we'll realize how much we're wasting by giving and sacrificing for others who are not trying to do something for themselves. Not trying to do something for themselves. And that's a dangerous thing. That's a dangerous thing when we are sacrificing, we are giving, we are providing, we are doing all these things for other folks, and they ain't trying to do nothing to get them to get themselves better. And we waste time and resources on people who have no intentions at all to do the work to get better. Do the work to get better. They sit there and they blame everybody else. It's always everybody else. They never accept responsibility for their actions and their behaviors and the consequences of their actions. Like I said before, the simplicity of life is that life is all about choices. And with each choice, there's a consequence, either good or bad. The complexity of life is that we want the freedom to make the choice, but the ability to control the consequence. And with that ability to control the consequence, we spend so much time, energy, and effort trying to do things that's not for us to do. So we have to really look at that. We have to start looking in the mirror. We have to start dealing with those things. We have to start identifying those things and start looking, where am I enabling somebody not to get better? You have to ask yourself that. You have to ask yourself that question. Seriously, you have to ask yourself that question. What am I doing to enable somebody to not work towards getting better? And once you look at that and you break that down, you'll start to look at a lot of the behaviors that you do. Like your kids always calling you or your family members calling you for money when they ain't doing what they're supposed to do. They call you when they need something, but they ain't working towards managing their money. They ain't working towards developing a budget. But they call you when they're in the bind. But you always there for them And they take you for granted because they know you're always there, but they would never do anything to change their spending habits. And they find themselves back there, the same place over and over again, and then get mad at you because guess what? They expect you to continue to do it. Cut them off. Let them know, hey, look, I love you, but I'm not going to enable your behavior. You need to change. You need to change because I guaranteed you they always ask you, but I bet you can't ask them. I bet you can't. And if you do ask them, there's always a reason why they can't. They got something going on. So what I'm saying is, am I saying you to change who you are? No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I am saying is you got to stop making yourself responsible for other people's actions and behaviors. Listen, man, like it's a lot of stuff, man. Like I look at it with me being a grandfather. I love my grandson. I love my daughter. I do. But my grandson Chase is not my responsibility. So whatever I choose to do for him, that is my choice to do it. That's my choice, but it is not my responsibility. So I'm not going to make myself feel responsible for doing anything outside of what I choose to do. You can say whatever, because guess what? At the end of the day, his mama and his daddy, that's their responsibility. And they got to start making decisions to make sure that they're good. Yeah, I help because I love, but that's not my responsibility. And that's my mindset. That is my mindset. Valencia said that. She said, you can't control other people's thoughts, choices, and behaviors. You have to release that. That journey is their journey. And that is what I'm talking about. Don't bog yourself down. I'll say this again. Don't bog yourself down. Weight yourself down with other people trying to control other people's thoughts and behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like you can, just like what she just said, you can shed light to it. But guess what? I sure don't have to. And I would tell you, man, you got to start looking at that. You got to start looking at it like, dang, a lot of times we put ourselves in position to be used by others who have no intentions of getting better. Some people are so comfortable with where they at, and you may want, a lot of times we want better for other people than what they actually want for themselves. And we got to stop doing that. We got to realize and check ourselves like, okay, if I want better for them than what they want for themselves, then why am I wasting my time, energy, and resources to support them? I can still love them, but I ain't got to offer them no resources. I ain't got to offer them my time. I don't have to offer them my support. I don't have to do that. And if me not having to do that, I take ownership of it and I'm comfortable with that. And I just move on and move accordingly. That's what I do. I don't sit there and waste and feel so bad. And then one thing, I'm gonna say this, Valencia said, all you can do is shed light and address and allow them to make their own choice. That is so true. But not only them making a choice, you don't have to assume responsibility for anything. You don't. You don't. Listen, a lot of times we make this like we feel obligated. And it's a bad thing. I say this, I'm going to say this again. A lot of times we feel obligated to others because we're connected to them. And we feel like that is what I'm supposed to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what you have to acknowledge and what you have to examine is how much ownership are they taking of what they are dealing with or what they came into the relationship with or what they're going through right now. Because guess what? That's not on you. That's not your responsibility, especially when you didn't cause it. So don't do that. Don't sit there and take the brunt of people taking out their frustration on you because of something that they parent did to them when they was a child. You ain't caused that. Don't make that your responsibility. And a lot of times it's hard to get to that place, but I would tell you, you get to that place and you say, you know what? That ain't on me. I ain't responsible for that. You ain't going to put that on me no more. You got to deal with that. That's your problem. That ain't my problem. Do not bring that my way. Don't bring that my way at all. Don't bring it. Period. My mama said, she said, you are responsible for you. That is so true. Miss Paige Banks said that. She said, growing up, one of my siblings always said things to hurt others' feelings. And we never told them they were wrong. Now in their adult lives, it's a serious problem because no one lets them do it. Our younger children feel as if we are the problem because we didn't say anything years ago. I like that. Like you just have to tell people and be honest with them. And a lot of times when we don't address it and we enable it, if you see as they grow older, they feel like that's correct. And no. And a lot of mistakes that we make so many mistakes. We make so many mistakes. And not saying that everything got to be right. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But what I am saying is that we make so many mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes that we make is we make the assumption that everything will get better, that they will figure it out. That's one of the biggest assumptions, biggest mistakes that we make is we assume that things will get better and we don't address it. We don't address it. We're not very specific when we address it. We don't talk about it when we address it, and we don't address issues. We try to avoid issues because a lot of us, we look at conflict as a bad thing. But conflict is really an acknowledgement and addressing something that is going wrong. And you come to it and you address it for what it is. I'm not attacking you if I'm talking about your behavior. It is not personal when I say that your behavior is not good. What you're doing is hurtful to people. What you're doing is not only hurtful to people, but it does damage to people. It's not right. And you have to address that with them. Don't let them keep going, because guess what? In their mind, they feel like it's okay. And then they grow up and then now they blowing up because guess what? You enable it your whole life. And now you're the one because you took responsibility for it. No, ma'am, no, sir. I am not. And it took me a while to get to this place to where, you know what? I can love you, but because I love you, I'm not taking responsibility for your actions. You're grown. You're grown. You are. And it's so funny. Like if we just sit down, if we seriously sit down and think about it. If you sit down and think about this, right? There's so much stuff that happens when we dealing with other people to where we assume responsibility for it. We in a relationship and we're trying to compensate for somebody else because we know that some traumatic happened to them. So we'll compensate for them. But what they end up doing is taking you for granted and getting the mindset like that's what you're supposed to do for me when you're volunteering that to be assistance for them. And they become entitled. They become entitled and get an attitude like when you stop doing it, like you're supposed to do that. That's what you're supposed to do. And why aren't you doing it? And I would tell you, that's one of the funniest things. They get their mindset like, that's what you're supposed to do. Boy, I tell you, no, I ain't got to do nothing, especially nothing. I'm not taking ownership for anything. I love my kids, and I keep saying that, but I have the mindset to raise my kids to be responsible for their choices. And this is one of the things that I see that so many people deal with. This is one of the things that so many people deal with. One of the things that so many people deal with is they take on the responsibility for others thinking that they're doing the right thing because that's their baby. And they don't want that baby to go through stuff. I don't want my baby to go through what I had to go through. I don't want my child to have to deal with these hardships. But the reality is life do not care. They will have to deal with it. And it is your responsibility to prepare them to deal with it. It's your responsibility to make sure that, guess what? I'm not responsible for your actions. I can love you, I can support you, but you are the one responsible for your actions. And I'm not going to take that on. I'm not. If you choose to do something that has consequences to it, guess what? I'm not trying to make them consequences go away because I had conversations with you to let you know that, hey, these are the consequences with this choice. And when that consequence comes, you're going to deal with it. I'm not dealing with it. I will take full ownership of what I deal with. I am not taking ownership for what somebody else do. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. I refuse. I refuse to do that. And because just seriously think about it. Just think about it. And I love talking about this, but and just looking at it from a holistic perspective, right? Think about how many people that you know, personally know, that always blame somebody else when it comes down to them having to deal with the consequences of their decision. They always blame somebody else for them having to deal with the consequences of their decisions. Mama said, dealing with hard times young is a way to become a solid adult. Yes, but a lot of times, Mom, people don't become solid adults is because we never hold them responsible for their behavior. We don't. My uncle said, so right, nephew, everyone has their own cross to bear. And that is so true. And we have, I would tell you what I've learned. This is what I've learned is when you start to dominate and take full ownership for your actions and your behaviors, life becomes so much easier to navigate because it eliminates all of that buffoonery that we're trying to manipulation that we're trying to control our consequences. We know what happened, so we know what was done. So guess what? I know what was done. I know what happened. So I'm gonna just take ownership of it. Yeah, I did that. I'm responsible for that. It goes a long way, man. It goes a long way. Yeah, and Leslie said this, and the excuses are endless. It's leaving me feeling lost as to what I've left in me to help anymore. Yes, and I would tell you this, right? I'm about to read this. I made this post. And I made this post the other day. I said, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to find yourself, to love yourself enough to choose yourself. Find yourself to love yourself enough to choose yourself. And the reason why that's one of the greatest gifts is because when in finding yourself, what you'll realize is you stop making yourself dependent on, because this is what happened. A lot of times we make ourselves responsible for other people choices because we feel as if by me taking responsibility, I'm showing them that I love them. And what ends up happening is most people, if they don't have the mindset to take ownership of their behavior, what they end up doing is they just leave that burden on you and they make you responsible for it and they turn it on you and they try to make it like, oh, it's your fault that they are that way. It's your fault. It's always your fault. Always your fault. Always. It's always your fault and never their fault. Don't put yourself in that position. Free yourself from that because guess what? It's not your fault. It ain't you. It's their responsibility. It is their responsibility. Period. And we have to get to that place because it can be so emotionally damaging. You can find yourself wasting away on things that is just not for you to do. And I would just say this, man. The biggest thing I would say with that is, don't make yourself responsible for other people's behavior. Like I said, stop trying to take responsibility for other people's actions and behaviors. If you with somebody they struggling with a drug addiction or alcohol addiction, they struggling with something from their childhood, the reality is you can help them, but it's their responsibility to choose. Like Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher, he said, your pain was may not have been your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And I just say that again. Your pain may not have been your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And that's their responsibility, not yours. Because you got your stuff you got to deal with. And I would tell you, it's a freeing thing to get to a mental space to where you're taking ownership for all the things that happen to you. You're taking ownership for your behavior. And a lot of times we don't even realize that a lot of decisions and stuff that we make, my uncle said this. Sound like an ex-president I heard of. My mom said you are correct. But a lot of decisions and stuff that we make, we take ownership of it, but in actuality, that's not ours. It is not ours. And we have to get to that space. Listen, you have to get to, and this is how I'm gonna go ahead and say this, right? This is how you know that it is not you, right? When you're there to help somebody and you see that they may be dealing with some things and you're always the one pushing the effort, you're always the one willing, giving, you're always the one compensating, you're always the one trying to help, you're always the one compromising to the environment to make them feel more better, to enable them to deal with it, and they never take responsibility for it. And they always find a way to blame you. They always find a way to put it on you. They always find a way to not take ownership of it. At that point, you have to sit back and say, you know what? That is not my responsibility. And I refuse. I just flat out refuse to continue to take ownership and to waste my time and energy to be there for somebody who's not trying to do anything for themselves. That's their battle that they have to do. And I know it may be hard because you may be married to them. I know it may be hard because it may be one of your kids and you want what's best for them. But what's best for them is for them to take ownership for their behavior, because at the end of the day, we all got to give an account for ourselves. When I have to stand before heaven gates and give an account for my action, it ain't gonna be no see what happened was they made me do it. Nothing them. They made me. No, it ain't gonna be none of that. It's gonna be what I gotta give account for my actions, me, myself, and I. And I'm not saying this to be selfish, like I said before. What I am saying this to do is we have to really look at it from the perspective of I am not going to take ownership for other people's actions and behaviors. And we see this. This doesn't work at all. Ms. Patricia Rowan said, if the person's pain is not his fault, then whose fault is it? Did he not do the deed to cause the pain? Well, yeah. So I would tell you this. Some things happen to people. Some people was molested. Some people was raped. Some people was hurt. Some people was neglected. Some people was abused. And it's things that they didn't do that they're impacted by. And that's what I mean by things not being their fault. It may not have been their fault, but just because it happened to you, you can either have a mindset of being a victor or a victim. And a victor said, I know this happened to me, and I'm going to choose to work towards getting better. That's what I'm going to do. But when you have a victim mentality, you're looking for somebody to take blame for what they did. And sometimes you may never get that. Sometimes you may never get that. And, you know, one of the sad things is a lot of times we sit and we're waiting for other people to take ownership for stuff that they did to us. And sometimes you get closure, sometimes you don't. And one thing that I've learned is, and it's frustrating because we want people to acknowledge, I want you to acknowledge what you did to me. I want you to acknowledge that you used me. I want you to acknowledge that you cheated on me. I want you to acknowledge that you hurt me. I want you to acknowledge I want you to acknowledge the things that you did that caused me some pain. And sometimes we would never get there. Some people go to their grave. Some people would never take ownership of it. Because guess what? A lot of times they're hurt themselves with something that happened to them, and that perpetuates with them. Hurting people hurt people. You ever heard that? And you have to just say, that's why it's so hard when you talk about breaking generational curses and things that happen. You say, you know what? I know I ain't caused it, but it ain't, it stopped. The buck stops with me. The buck stops with me. It stops with me. Teresa said, I agree in that instance for sure. Hey, what's going on, Anthony? How you doing? Love you, cuz. Love you too. But you have to say the buck stopped with me. And because if it doesn't stop with you, it's still going to impact you. And me, I just, from a personal standpoint, I don't like having to deal with something that somebody else, I don't like nothing dealing with anybody that somebody else is responsible for. Because I take full, when you learn to take full responsibility for yourself, you realize you have no room or effort to take on other people's stuff. You can help them, but I ain't going to be responsible for it. Valencia said, I recall an issue with someone and expressed how it made me feel. By the end of the conversation, I was at fault. And they found ways to justify the issue that I was trying to address. And that's what I'm saying. And I'm glad you brought that up. Because I am so glad you brought that up. This is how you know people ain't ready to deal with their own stuff. They always blaming you. You're there to help them. You're saying, hey, look, this is impacting me on a negative manner. This is impacting the relationship. This is impacting whatever it may be. And they sit there and they blame you for it. Like, I ain't had nothing to do with, and I'm not saying this to be insensitive, I had nothing to do with how your father treated you. I had nothing to do with how you was neglected by your mom. I had nothing to do with what happened to you in your life before I got there. I had nothing to do with that. I can help you. I can walk along with you and help you on your journey to healing. But what you're not going to do is place that responsibility on me because I had nothing to do with it. Now, if I had something to do with it, I take full responsibility for it. I eat that one. I eat that one all day. I will take full responsibility. But you're not going to put that on me and try to flip it on me when it's clearly your issue and what you got to deal with. That's it. And you just have to do that. And I'm glad that Valencia brought that up, because that's how you know when you dealing with somebody who ain't ready to deal with their own stuff. They're going to continually try to put it on you. And you can either say, you know what, I'm going to carry it, or you're going to say, no, Sometimes you got to realize that you may have to disconnect yourself from some folks, because they will never take ownership of it, and it will always be there. Now, if you choose that's what you want to deal with, then that's what you want to deal with. You can continue to enable it. But what I got to, for me, no, I ain't enabling nothing. I'm not enabling anything, nothing at all. My cousin said, I didn't like to take responsibility, but I had to learn not to take the full responsibility for the other person or people. Yeah, I mean, you can acknowledge what you do. You can acknowledge that and address it. Don't just acknowledge. Matter of fact, some people would acknowledge it, but not willing to deal with it. They will acknowledge it, but not willing to deal with it or address the behavior or change the behavior. And if you with somebody like that, even with your kids, man, listen, I can do good by you, but I will cut you off in a minute. And that ain't even in a bad way. I can love you, but I'm not going to enable you. And that's just a place where I got into. And it's not a place where I don't love you. It's not a place where I don't support you. But at the end of the day, one thing I realized, and I say this, and I'm using this from the aspect of God and looking at it in the context of a father and a son, looking at that from that perspective. I remember with my dad, the dynamics of our relationship changed after I left the house and I became a husband and a father and taking responsibility for my family. And our relationship, the dynamics of our relationship changed because I in my mindset, that was what I was responsible for. So I took full ownership of it. And by me taking full ownership of it, there were things that my dad was willing to do for me that I didn't even have to ask, because he knew that I took full responsibility for the things that I was responsible for. I didn't ask my dad for money, but when I would come home, my dad would just slide me some money, put gas in the car. But I never asked him, because he saw that I was taking full responsibility for the things I was responsible for. So that made him want to give him more. And it's the same thing with God, with us. When we take full responsibility for us, God is willing to enable us a little bit more for even things that we didn't ask for, because we have the mindset to take ownership. We have the mindset to take ownership. God is all about ownership. Like, and this is the sinful nature that can go back to Adam. And you look at the Bible when God created Adam and Eve and Eve, the story in Genesis when Eve had Adam eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, ate the apple. And when God came back, the Bible said that they hid. And God was like, asked Adam, why you hid? And Adam was like, well, because we was naked. And God was like, how you know you was naked? And this is what Adam said: the woman you gave me. He didn't take ownership of it. He was given a charge of what not to do. But when it came down to being held accountable, he even blamed God. And then think about it. That's what a lot of people do when it comes to us. They blame us. They blame other people, when it really was our failure to take ownership of what we was charged to do. That's the sinful nature. And what you have to do is say, you know what? I'm not going to allow that to bother me. I'm not going to allow that to ruin me. I'm not going to allow that to take control of me. I'm not going to do that. So that's a great thing. That's a great way to get it, and stop trying to take responsibility for other people's actions and behavior. You don't have to do that. Stop trying to. You're trying to show them that, hey, I'm there for you. I'm there for you. I'll be there for you. I'll support you. I will tell you, man, some folks are just ungrateful. That's just the reality of it. Some folks are just ungrateful to the point to where it doesn't matter what you do for them, how much you enable them, how much you dare to support them, how much you support them with time, energy, effort, that you're willing to sacrifice, that you make time for them, you do all of these things for them, that you lifted them up and you did all these things to help them. They will still blame you because they are not willing to take ownership of their behaviors or the things that happen to them. They will not do it. They will always find ways to blame you. And watch this. You do all of that stuff. And then when you stop, They're going to paint you as the villain because you are not doing what you said you was going to do for me. But you look at it and say, hey, look, I was doing for you because I was trying to help you. When you're not trying to help yourself, you're on your own. And that's how you got to look at it. You really got to look at it that way. And you got to say, you know what? I'm holding you accountable for you taking ownership for your own behavior because it ain't my fault. It ain't my responsibility. My mom said this. My mom said, if my people, ownership, called by my name, ownership, humble themselves, ownership, then, and she's talking about 2 Chronicles 7 chapter, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land. Ownership. When we take ownership, God takes ownership of his part. And we just got to stop doing it. Like the enemy wants to keep us at a place spiritually, wants to keep us at a place where we're already giving, what we're already, he wants to keep us at a place where we're always blaming somebody else. There's always somebody else's fault. The enemy never wants us to get to a place where we're taking ownership. Never, never, never. He wants to keep us at a place to where he wants to keep us in bondage. But he wants, and why this is one of the most powerful things. One of the most powerful things. The enemy always wants to keep us in bondage, in a mental bondage. He wants to keep us in a place of bondage because guess what? In that place of bondage, I will keep you around the source of where you're healing at, but you'll still wait for somebody else to do some action so that you can heal. But you're close there. You're in the right place at the right time and have the wrong mindset. And you're just like the man with the man at the pool of Bethesda. You're there for 38 years waiting for somebody to put you in the pool. And when the only thing it really took for you to have an encounter with God and God asks you a question, will you be made whole? And the man said yes. And he said, take up your bed and walk. He didn't say you had to get in the pool. He didn't say you had to do all of these things that you was waiting to do for 38 years. He just said, do you want to be made whole? Take up your bed and walk. And the man did that. And we just have to have an encounter. The enemy wants us to stay in that place for 38 years and waste away our lives, blaming other people that ain't nobody put me in the pool. That's what we waiting on. And I would tell you, man, it is time for us to make that decision that, you know what, God, I want to be made whole. And this is, and watch this. This is the thing I love about this. What I love about all of this so much is God can place people in your life to help you on your journey, but it's still your choice to choose to walk in it. And we're waiting on people to pull us along. Stop doing that. Stop pulling people along. If they don't want healing, listen, you focus on yours and you focus on you living your best life. And don't waste your life away waiting on somebody else. My mama said, blaming other people is conflict. Conflict destroys. But and I'm about to address that too. And Valencia said, she said that he will. But mama, when you said conflict destroys, don't confuse. And I like this. Don't confuse conflict with confrontation, because confrontation is necessary, right? And a lot of times we view conflict as confrontation. In actuality, confrontation is necessary to address the things that we need. To address the behavior, to address the thing that we need to get better. There has to be a confrontation. You confront whatever it is, right? But just because I confront it, that doesn't mean I'm coming with the mindset of conflict. And a lot of times we have been taught that confrontation is conflict, but confrontation is necessary. It is necessary. It is not one of those things where we just continue to just avoid. That's why a lot of times people avoid stuff and stuff never get fixed. That's why a lot of times people avoid things and they sit there and they get comfortable with other people, enabling them not to address the things that they need to address. And that's why I say stop taking that responsibility for other people, because when you do that, you're taking away their responsibility to address their issues. It's their responsibility, not yours. But later said that she said, one of my friends that believed that her husband cheated because of her, because that's what he told her. I tried to tell her it wasn't true. However, because he said it and gave her reasons, and if she hadn't done, let me read that again. One of my friends that believed that her husband cheated on her because that's what he told her. I tried to tell her it wasn't true. However, because he said it and gave her reasons that if she hadn't done this or that, it wouldn't have happened. Not thinking about he's responsible for his own actions. Yes, he is responsible for his own actions. But I will say this: I'm glad that came up, and I'm glad that came up. I'm glad that came up. Ooh, I'm glad that came up. All right. Yes, he is responsible for his actions. He is. There's no this, that, the third. There's nothing else. He is responsible for his actions, especially if he choose to go outside of his marriage. That is his responsibility. That is solely on him. One thing I will say is this, right? There are certain roles and certain responsibilities as a wife that if she is choosing not to fulfill those things, she's creating an environment that makes it more comfortable. Some people are going to do what they want to do, but at some point, we got to take ownership of it too. I can't be married to you and say I'm always tired of not doing my quote unquote wifely duties when the Bible clearly says certain things about that. The Bible says only be apart for an agreed period of time for fasting and praying, and then come back immediately to where there's the enemy won't have any room to tempt you. I can't always be so super spiritual, I always be tired, or always be all of this other stuff, and then turn around and not take care of certain needs. I can't be a husband and not take care of my family. I can't be a husband and not provide, and then turn around and expect you to respect me as a husband. There's certain sides to that. I'm not telling her to take ownership of him blaming her for that. What I am saying is that there's two sides to that, to where if she is not doing what she was supposed to do, she needs to take ownership for her actions, and he take ownership for his actions, and hopefully they can work together towards finding a common ground. Because this is something that it always, in that aspect, there's always the narrative as if one side is wrong. But that if some people are going to do what they're supposed to do, do what they want to do anyway. But some people set conditions for things to happen and then play victim, like the boy that cried wolf. So in that aspect, I just wanted to address that and really address that and put that out there, because I see it. So I just think that this is necessary. Like you can't. And I'm this grown folks conversation. So I'm gonna have grown folks conversation. Grown folks conversation, right? The Bible is very clear about the Bible fully takes account to the human nature. And the Bible also said that, that some people have the gift of celibacy, right? That's a gift. If you are down here and you always not in the mood, you always, if something come up, you always tired, you always this, that, and the third, and this is on both sides. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a spouse, then I can't continue to sit here and not act like that it's always somebody else. It's a part that I play with them. I'm not saying that you are the sole proprietor or solely responsible for that. But what I am saying is this, right? You have to address that behavior and you have to put the work towards it, because the excuse of you're always tired, you're always mad, or this, that, and the third, that don't float away, because there's only so many times that excuse can be used before it get kicked out and has no validity to it. Valencia said that. She said confrontation can be constructive or destructive. We must know the difference. We can either build others in our confrontation or tear others down. And that is one thing that a lot of people haven't learned. They haven't learned the difference between constructive, right? And the difference between constructive and destructive. And this is how I will break it down. And this is how I see it. The difference between constructive confrontation and destructive confrontation is who is found and who it is aimed to. For example, I can address your behavior and not address you as a person. I'll say that again. I can address your behavior and not you as a person. And the reason why I can address your behavior and not you as a person is because I am being specific about an action. I'm not talking about an attribute. I'm talking about an action. I'm not talking about an attribute. So, and that's one of the biggest difference, because I can say, hey, look, I don't like what you did. I didn't say I didn't like who you are. And a lot of people, they get mad and they can't separate the two because they feel in my anger, I'll begin to attack you. And that's the destructive confrontation. But the difference is found in, me addressing your actions or addressing your attributes. Now, watch this. Watch this. Some people it can even get this. Some people would never like who you are because who you are forced them to deal with who they are. And they don't want to deal with it. So they will continue to address your attributes and not address your actions. Not address your actions. So I'm glad you brought that up, Valencia. Ms. Paige Banks said his reasons was not for fulfilling her wife's duty. It was simply things like she gained 10 pounds. No, versus saying, baby, let's go start. Yeah, if that is the reason, he a lame. I'll tell you right now, he a lame, and he was just looking for an excuse to blame somebody else and not take ownership for his action. Period. Matter of fact, if somebody just, I just don't have no respect for that. Because especially, I would just leave it like that. I'd have no respect for that. And that's just somebody that wanted to do what they wanted to do to try to blame somebody else. And to your friend, she should never take ownership of it. She should not allow herself to be beaten down and thinking about, well, it's my fault. Well, I'm overweight. No, heck no. You do whatever you need to do to learn to love yourself, accept yourself, and do what you need to do for yourself. And I hope you share this with her so that she can hear this. Because guess what? You don't have to subject yourself to other people's buffoonery. Don't take responsibility for other people's actions and behaviors. My mom said she is not responsible for his actions. She is responsible for her actions, but her actions are not the reasons for his actions. His attempt to blame her are actually signs that need to be addressed professionally. I'll say that again. And some people just won't ever do it. Because watch this, mama. Some people always, their whole life, somebody always answered for them, and they never was forced to answer things for themselves. They were never forced to answer things for themselves, so that's on them. And that's why I was talking about stop doing it. Even as a child, stop doing it. Stop making an excuse for your kids. Stop calling listen, if your child didn't do the work, stop calling the school. And that's what you got people out there that their kid won't do the schoolwork, get a 0. All the stuff online, you can see what they have to do. They get a 0. Now you want to call the school and act like the teacher ain't helping you. Your child didn't do the work. But then now, because it ain't what you want to hear, now you call all the way down to the board and you try to make it like it's somebody doing you wrong. And what are you teaching your kids? You're teaching your kids that, guess what? I'm not responsible for the things I'm responsible for because mama always going to try to circumvent the system to make me get my way. And then that kid don't do the work and that kid get that mentality. And now the kid end up in jail 5-6 years later. And you wondering why? It's because you enabled that behavior. You did that. Don't blame the system. Don't blame the white man. Don't blame being oppressed. You created that mindset. And that mindset led them down because that's not a reality of what life really is. That's not a reality. So teachers, stop stressing out about them darn parents. Stop stressing out about them. Stand on your own 2 feet. If they didn't do the work, tell them to do the work. Because I know everything y'all class dojo, all this stuff online y'all have to do. And you got the assignments and the kids just won't do it. And they blaming COVID. No, you just ain't doing. You a sorry parent. You are a sorry parent. But you want to blame somebody else. You'll walk up to the school and blame the principal or blame the teacher, but you won't take ownership for little Johnny not doing his homework. And I'm saying that, and I see that all the time. And our school systems, and this is a whole nother, but our school system don't put the responsibility, and we create this environment. That is why we have a prison, from school to prison pipeline, because we got a system designed that we don't hold people accountable for their actions. I know a certain school system where you can't even give kids a 0. You got to give them a 60 because they said giving them a 0 makes it hard for them to overcome. But I would tell you like this, growing up in them old grade books where you had everybody's name, they put all the grades in, you got a 0, you realize, I would tell you one thing, you realize you got a lot of work to make up. So next time you're going to at least turn it in something because that 0 hard to overcome. If you're a 0, you got to make 300s just to get 75. So those are lessons that I learned growing up because if you ain't do the work, you got a 0. Now we're we're enabling them to not be responsible for their actions. I have to say I'm helping some teachers now. And then Ms. Paige Banks said, and that same kid can't hold a job today because it's always somebody's fault. Always somebody's fault. Ms. Teresa Rohn said, I said a mouthful, and she said she stand tall on hers. And I commend you. And Valencia said, she said, hurt people, and I hope he heals. This is going back to the husband that you talked about, Ms. Paige Banks. Sound like he's saying it's something she only calls but deserve. She doesn't deserve that. And that is so true. She not only calls but deserve. That's what she was talking about. She doesn't deserve. No, she don't. She don't. And that's what I'm talking about. He got to take responsibility for that. Because I guarantee you, if you peel the onion back with him and his situation, he's a hurt little boy who's seeking validation through sexual intercourse. Because you know how I know? It was once me. I sought validation because I was hurt because I felt like my father wasn't there for me. So by my means of filling that void was being promiscuous. So now he getting in a relationship and he's stimulated by what? His visual. His visual is what's stimulating him, and he don't even recognize that my visual is leading me out there to destroy the same person that I'm connected to because I choose not to address the little hurt boy in me. And I did that till I was 21 years old. And I can remember God revealing that thing to me. And that's why I talk about all the time about healing, man. This thing is so beyond the surface stuff. And we don't even realize why we're doing certain things. That's why it's so important to take responsibility. Because when I made the decision to take responsibility, I asked God, I said, God, why am I the way I am? I said, God, why am I the way I am? And God said, Robert, you the way you are because you felt like your daddy wasn't there for you. Now, like, no, that ain't it. And God, the Holy Spirit kept dealing with me. And I started to realize, yeah, that was it. Yeah, I was that little hurt boy expecting my dad to do certain things that I didn't get from him. But the reality was what I expected from my daddy, I couldn't even get from him, but I got it in other places. So I didn't go without. I just didn't get it from the place where I expected it to get it from. So with me, my subconsciously, I try to fulfill that void through sexual promiscuity. But I chalked it up to that I just had game. But in actuality, I was trying to fill that void. And I was running from that little boy. And I didn't want to face that little boy until I got married and I was 21 years old. And I was dealing with things. And I was like, why am I the way that I am? And God revealed that thing to me. He revealed that thing to me. And guess what? From that point, that's when it opened my eyes to things. And I started taking accountability for my actions. And now that helped me. And guess what, though? Not only did it help me, but that didn't just free me just from that. I had to manage it. I have to manage it because that little boy is still there. And a lot of times, that's what we don't really talk about with healing. I can be made whole, but I still got to manage it. You can be made whole, you can be healed, but you still got to manage it. God can heal you from high blood pressure, but you can't go back to eating them ribs and eating all of the things that you was eating before. You got to change some things. You got to take accountability. You got to start working out. You got to start doing things, drinking more water. You have to start doing those things. I can't just say, God, heal me, he healed me, and then sit there and don't do nothing. Taking ownership and saying, you know what, I'm going to do everything within my power to manage that. And I thank God for that. I thank God for that revelation. I thank God for that insight. I thank God for showing me. And a lot of things, just like old buddy, he a hurt little boy who blaming somebody else. My mom said, but I love ribs. You can love ribs, but you don't love healing. And I like what Leslie said. She said, God can move mountains, but you are going to need a shovel. I love that. I love that. God is going to move mountains, but you're going to need a shovel. Listen, there's a lot of things that we superficially, we have created an environment to where it's like we're creating an environment as if, you know, God is just going to do everything. No, the freedom comes with the change, the shift in the mindset. That's why it says in Romans 12 chapter, I beseech you therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, that you present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service, or another version said your spiritual act of worship. And then it said, and be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And it's always about a changing of a mindset. And our victory comes in the changing in our mindset. But with that change in the mindset, it has to be followed by actions, because the Bible said faith without works is dead. So I can have the faith to be healed, but I got to work towards it. I can have the faith to be made whole, and God can do it. But guess what? I had to do, like, and I used what I used about the guy at the pool of Bethesda. When God said, do you want to be made whole? His actions, he said, take up your bed and walk. Take up what you identify by and walk. Take it away. Take it up. Go throw it away. Do what you got. Burn it. Do everything you got to do. Take it up and walk. And I challenge us to do those things. Don't take responsibility for other people's actions and behaviors. Don't do that. Do not do that. Don't take it. Don't take ownership of it, because guess what? It ain't your fault. It ain't yours. It's theirs. You can assist them, but don't, just because I assist you don't mean I take, don't, oh Jesus, I like this. And I'm about to say this. Stop co-signing for other people's consequences and actions and their behavior. Stop co-signing. Because you know, if you co-sign, if they don't pay it, you're responsible for it. Now, you don't have to co-sign to help them pay that car note. You don't have to co-sign to help them pay that car note. You can slide them a little something to help them on the way, but don't put your name on it, because guess what? Once you put your name on it, you're responsible for it. Stop co-signing. Don't co-sign. Do not co-sign accepting responsibility for other people's actions and behaviors. Don't do that. You take ownership of what you're responsible for. If you are in a position to help, you help them, but don't co-sign. Because guess what? If they want it, they got to walk with it. Man, I really enjoyed today's show. I hope it was helpful. I thank you guys. Miss Patricia Rome said, all right now. And Valencia said, be ye transformed by the renewing, the ing, the continuation, the change in your mind. My mama said, my Lord, don't co-sign for other people's consequences. That's a good thing. And I would just say this, man, I appreciate you all so much, more than what you think. This has been a real good thing with me, been very helpful for me. Just having these conversations with you all. I'm like I said before, this is not trying to act like somebody know more than anything. No, this is just sharing from experience, because guess what? We deal with this stuff every day. And I think that we need to have platforms where people talk about real stuff and how you actually deal with it. Ms. Page Banks says she truly enjoyed it. And our Anthem, what's going on? Oh, and shout out to our Anthem, man. Listen, Anthem, I'm gonna give away some more of your books and your content. I Anthem, man, I'm so proud of you, and I just want to give you a shout out right now. I'm proud of you, man. I Anthem Houston, go to her page, I Anthem Insights. You want to get onto it. For you educators out there, man, I'm telling you, she is the bomb.com. She is the bomb.com. Not only she class in 1998, even though she's from Louisiana, I'm not going to, from New Orleans, from the boot, yeah, baby. I'm not going to hold that against you. But I am so proud of what she's doing, what God is using her for, and she is phenomenal. And I want to continue to support you because I got love for you. For real. And here she go. Leslie said, thank you so much for my weekly counsel. Brown said, hey, what's going on, my brother Brian? Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Listen, I'm going to say that so my mama can hear it. Roll Tide. That's for Miss Paige Banks too. Roll Tide. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm not gonna say anything about you. I'm gonna just leave it alone. I'm gonna keep that between us. But hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It really means a lot. Hey, look, go on YouTube. These will be uploaded on YouTube on the Conversation 9-8 channel. So please go like, subscribe to that channel. We're just trying to continue to build. And I'll be doing snippets and everything like that. Just try to share. So share this and get this out there. And we're just gonna continue to do what God said do. You guys have a great and wonderful evening. Hey, thank you, Valencia. Appreciate it. God bless.